Welcome to Young Money. I'm Nozi Pombanjwa. Today we are in Tembisa, one of South Africa's most vibrant townships. And we're about to catch up with the guy who says he's not the CEO, he's just the hustler, the guy who drives the sales of a company called Intercessor Army Franchise. They go by the name IAF, and they're one of South Africa's fastest growing branding powerhouses. Let's meet him. So, Bulelani, it's such a pleasure to meet you. IAF, I always, when I'm faced with acronyms, want to know the story behind the acronyms. What's happening with IAF?
IAF, the company started 10 years ago. The name basically stands for Intercessor Army. And how we've derived the meaning of the name is that it means to us to stand in the gap with discipline, skill and precision while maintaining a global state of mind. That's it.
Oh wow, that's actually fantastic. I want to go back to the first part of that really long phraseology, to stand in the gap, which means you've seen a gap in the market and you're trying to fill it. What is that gap?
I mean, the gap that we're filling is a brand development gap. I mean, we've been running now for the past 10 years. And in that space, I mean, we were covering things like print, and our strongest point has been print. But now we're moving to the more creative side of things, where we're going to be doing your brand development, brand talks. Well, we're doing a bit of that, but we're just formalizing it: brand talks, brand strategy, and brand management. So it's a fully led agency that has 3 departments. So it's purely broken down into online, brand development, and print. Yeah.
And so being in Tembisa, does that translate into a strategic advantage in any way?
No, not necessarily, not at all. I mean, the service from some of our service providers is nonsense. Our internet, it's the hardest thing to get good internet. I think it's the 4th time changing now.
Yeah.
And I mean, but the real reason why we're here is it's out of a pure need to show all these young kids growing up like, look, you two can make it.
Yeah.
I mean, I started in that place with no funding, with no mentorship, with none of that stuff. My highest grade is grade 9. But I made up in my mind that we're going to be successful. 10 years later, we've got a full-on staff complement of about 10 people. We've got a vehicle fleet. We've got guys on site at the current moment. And we're still soldiering on. So that is the real reason why we are here in the township, just so that people can know there's something good. Because initially, when I started business, with the little experience that I had, the one thing that I wanted to do was leave Ilokshin. And go and have an office in Sandton or office in Rosebank or whatever, because it was the dream that everyone has. But I mean, over the years, I then realized that, you know what I consider my disadvantage is actually my unique selling proposition. And if I'm able to package it proper, then we're going to be able to sell that off to clients to then say that, ayo, this was actually produced in the township. Something good can come out of the township.
So increasingly, we've been having conversations with young money makers in the townships, and that's just been an incredible journey that the Young Money team has been able to showcase. If you could advise other young entrepreneurs who intend on starting their businesses in the township, what makes this particular environment uniquely challenging?
I mean, for instance, the environment is challenging from a mental perspective. That's the first, from the employers, actually, the entrepreneur, the leader, the visionary's perspective, because you're not in a place where you're actually challenged to do anything greater than what you are doing. At most, your 5% is going to be everything greater than everything around you.
And there's the risk that you might just think that is sufficient, and so you don't have that incentive
and then you don't
to grow.
You don't design or develop yourself to that level. The second thing is, one of the biggest challenges that I saw is that when hiring people, especially professionals who are experienced, and you tell them come and work in the township.
So you're not in Rosebank, you're not in Sandton.
You're pulling them from the Sandton, and it's all good. Most of them really live in townships, but the mentality is that if we drop in, right. I mean, up until quite recent, I was talking to one of the big corporates, and I was talking to the financial director, and we were just talking about salaries and whatsoever. And it was so funny, here in the township, on some of the areas, we're actually paying better than them. And they're large. They've been around for 16 years. They're making 200, 400 million rand a year. But I mean, we're still paying well. So it was just that mentality, and that is the one thing that we want to definitely shift. So what has worked for us is that when we're inducting new people, we run them through the whole story. And the moment you get into who we are, the brands that we work on, you kind of then see that we're actually serious about life.
But what about clients? Because one would also think clients also might have that difficulty in perception of understanding that quality isn't based on where you're located. Quality is based on output.
You see, the thing is, I mean, it's an uphill battle, because you're still going to need to do a lot of convincing. However, when a lot of people have actually seen the quality of your work, they sort of just gravitate towards you, because to larger corporates, it's a nice thing for them. I think it's I don't know, it's an egocentric or whatever. It's a box that they take, that we're actually working with the business in the township. We're actually helping. We're actually developing someone out there that is in the township. So, and they can also deliver on our level. And another important critical factor is quality.
Yes.
One of the things that I've seen about a lot of us entrepreneurs in the township is that we are passionate, we're street smart, we can sell anything to anyone. That is what we're good at. But the most important and critical thing in the development of any business or being in the supply chain of any large corporate is you need to be functional.
You need to be functional.
You need systems and processes that are operational, that are practical, that you can deliver on. Because most of the time they'll give you that work because you were able to sell them, I mean, the moon and the stars.
And the big idea, right?
They jump in, they latch on. Coke is like, okay, here's a huge deal. And then when it comes to delivery, you are nowhere to be found.
And this is why you need your systems and processes. But I want to go back to your personal inspiration. I mean, even as you speak, I can almost touch the passion for what you're doing and the belief in what you're contributing to this particular community. What keeps you going, getting up every day to be here for the team and to grow the business? I
mean, for instance, what keeps me going is the fact that we want to be one of the biggest agencies and one of the most influential agencies. The plan is never ever to leave the township, but it's always to be here, but build a skyscraper in the township. The township, this particular area that we are in Timbis, there was a certain area called the Intercessor section which was heavily industrialized. Back in the days, I'm talking about 20 years ago, they were manufacturing stuff, they were manufacturing products, they were manufacturing all of those things, but it seems like the visions died with the vision bearers, and I think that was purely because of lack of systems and processes. And I mean, which is what led, I believe, to an over influx of taxi owners, e-paza shop, hairdressers, because I mean, almost any township you go to, that's what we excel in.
Do you think that's changing though? Because I think there's a realization that if you ignore the township economy, you are actually ignoring a big chunk of possible cash flow and inflow from a business. So is that divide being bridged at all?
You see, the divide is still great. From the guys who are at the lower point to the guys who are at the top. The guys who are at the top are obviously your shop, right? The guys who are your pick and pay, they've seen that the township economy, I mean, is a serious economy, 200 billion or whatever the case is of money that is just running in the township. And they're trying to capitalize, which is why they're bringing some of their smaller complexes here, their smaller shops and all that stuff here. But I don't really think that the shift is happening as quick to the people who are in the township. We need to be optimizing or taking advantage of that.
And why aren't you in a complex? Because as you're saying, a lot of these big guys are coming in, they're building up these big malls, and one would assume that there would be a symbiotic relationship where the likes of Bulelani are going to gravitate into the complexes. And what you've chosen is to stay fully embedded in the township social fabric.
I mean, this is, for instance, I mean, the decision for us was purely, this is where we started. We didn't want to move from here. If we wanted to, we're busy looking for property. If we're ever going to move from here, we're going to move for another property that we're going to develop. But the plan now is we're taking over this whole property, we're taking it up one story up, and as we move forward, we're going to keep moving at one level and one level and one level further. There's no need for us to go to a large complex and pay 6,000, 40,000 rand rent. It's impractical. But at the end of the day, if our marketing out there and our brand association and our branding is so heavy and so good that people are able to associate with the brand, then that's what we want.
Absolutely.
And I think that we've achieved that, because when people in and around the area think about our brand, they think of a luxurious brand, they think about an effective brand, they think about a prompt brand. We're not considered the cheapest, we're actually considered the most expensive or one of the most expensive. But at the end of the day, we realize one thing, that the whole notion and our formula to business is not the typical township formula where you buy a product for 5 rand, you sell it maybe at another 5 rand, you pocket the money. No, we need to be scalable. We need to be able to factor in any economical changes in the next year so that it doesn't affect continuous price increases. If we need to hire a director, hire a new employee, we can't keep taking prices up. So that is how you work prices up.
So you've started to talk about some of the nuts and bolts around the human capital that you need to run the business. How big is the team right now? And also when you talk about scalability, how big, what are your growth ambitions for the size of your team?
Currently it's 10 people, including myself. It's 10 amazing people who are graduates. except for me. I'm not a graduate at all. So, I mean, for instance, when we're talking about scaling, I mean, in September, we're taking over the whole property. At the moment, we're using about 40% or 60% of the property. We're taking over this whole entire property where we are. And then from that point, I mean, we're looking at hiring about four more people, a production manager, a sales director, and then 2 other guys who are going to be in graphic and web development. And then from there, just increasing our manpower as well from the guys that we have outside, because we've got guys that go out to sites and do the actual bus installations, vehicle wrap, signboards, and all that stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of room to grow because the market is open. I mean, when you look at the creative market, it's a market that has been heavily dominated by white-owned corporates.
I want to come back to your people element. In particular, you've obviously, even if you're not seeing yourself as a CEO, having to take on the responsibility of leading and growing and motivating the rest of the team. What has been the most fulfilling part of that journey?
Wow, of leading people. I think it's considered a bit of a down, but I mean, I think some of the most fulfilling were when we had no money at all and people still stayed. And that was a learning curve for me because I came from an environment, if there's no cash, then people are just going to leave. But somehow people believed in the vision because, I mean, we didn't have the cash. I mean, of the 10 years that we were operational, business only started taking a turnaround 6 years in. By turnaround, I mean, it's only then after 6 years that we started maybe reaching a cap of about 1,000 Rand a week. And then from there, I mean, in the past 2 to 3 years, we've then grown exponentially. And I mean, because of the different incubation that we got, the mentorship, the business development, financial development, and advice that we keep getting.
Well, there you have it. His name is Bulelani. He says that he is not a chief executive officer. He's a hustler. He's the guy who's on the street making sure that the business is driving sales. Most importantly, he's part of a bigger movement to ensure that South Africa's townships convert and transform into cities. Let's keep our eyes on IAF. That's the acronym, and a beautiful story around finding a gap, filling the gap, and running with the gap. Thank you so much, guys, for making the time to join us. Remember that if you want the Young Money crew to come to you, all you need to do is just follow me on Twitter @TheRealNozy or @CNBC Africa. Don't forget the hashtag. It's Young Money 410, and it's Happy June month to all of you. Cheers for now.